I'm wondering, how can you encourage people who may have experienced abuse as a child and then themselves become a perpetrator of abuse as an adult? Do you have any processes? Have you considered that issue?
A couple of things I want to make very clear. Most children that are abused do not and never, ever become abusers. One of the fears, particularly of men coming forward, has been that if they disclose to people, there will be an assumption that because they were abused, they themselves will become abusers. The evidence is clear. Most people that are abused never abuse. That's very important. The second thing, however, is more complex, and that is many abusers who do in fact abuse against children have in fact been abused as children. They're quite different concepts, and I'll just repeat it. Most children abused do not become abusers, but many abusers were abused as children. And so we need to understand a little bit about that particular set of circumstances. In the private sessions, I've had in front of me a number of men who were abused as children, severely abused as children, and later went on to become abusers. And they have served significant jail sentences. We would expect that in some of the jail visits, that would also be the case. Their insights are important and valuable to us. What they tell us is important and valuable to us. But I have to say it's an exceptionally complex area. And so part of the research we're doing, as I've indicated previously, is looking at offender behaviour, trying to understand what makes offenders, trying to understand the circumstances that gave rise to that offending. And hopefully we can, by the time we've finished, shed some light on that. The second is we want to make sure that there are services that intervene at the first signs of abuse. Some of the research indicates that many of the abusers commenced abusing whilst they themselves were teenagers. We need to understand that, and we need to understand how we respond once that occurs. What do we do when young people start to abuse? And we need to try to understand what are the support systems that need to be put in place around that. The third thing we need to understand is the needs of people that have become abusers as they leave jail, as they leave their particular correctional service facilities and go back into the community. Now, I don't pretend for one moment that we will have all the answers to any of what I've just put to you, but we do need to understand that. What is very clear, however, is simply attacking people and blaming people does very little to protect anybody. Does very little to attack anybody. We have a clear view that those that have offended should be brought to justice. That's not in question. But what's very clear is simply sending people into jails and then releasing them and hoping the problem goes away is not creating a safer environment, and that's something we need to look at. But we absolutely have already heard from people that are abusers who were themselves abused as children, and we try to understand that more fully as we go through the Royal Commission's work.